it should be a very regular occurrence, especially on an issue like that. I was excited when I chanced across a document that showed that we're going to have this particular engagement with Mr. Fidelis. Mr. Fidelis is not a new person. He's one of our own. We've known him in the circles of research for quite a long time. If I will briefly introduce him, Mr. Fidelis is a research manager of UAS, and he's also the head of research operations office at the Institute of Health Research of UAS. In terms of academic and educational profile, he has a BSc and MPhil degrees in agricultural economics from the University of Ghana, and he holds certificates in project management at GIMPA and the University of Oldenburg in Germany. He is a certified research administration professional, and we all know that we can all attest that he does a very good job and quite on top of his job. He is a chartered professional administrator. Additionally, Mr. Anumu is a bioethicist. He played an instrumental role in the establishment of the UHAS Research Ethics Committee at the time when he joined us from Navrongo. He has been an institutional review board administrator for the past 14 years, both at the University of Ghana College of Health Sciences and UHAS. He is a member of the Africa Bioethics Network and the Public Responsibility in Medicine and Research, PRIM-NR, and also the Ghana Association of Administrators of Research Ethics Committee. He is the immediate past president of the GHAARE, the REC, the GHA REC. Mr. Animu is a pioneering fellow of the NYU of the University of Ghana Research Integrity Program and a fellow of the Western Institutional Review Board in Puyallup, USA. He has a certificate in research ethics from the Public Health Foundation of India. And Mr. Anumu also has trained several IRBs in Ghana and made several presentations like he's going to do today on research ethics and integrity at both national and international conferences. He is currently a PhD student at the University of South Africa. I hope he is able to, I hope the South Africans do not lynch him anyway. His research focuses on animal research ethics, governance, and ethical use of animals in research. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you our resource person, facilitator, no other small person than our own manager, Mr. Fidelis Anumu. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. And good afternoon to all of us. Thanks for the opportunity to present at this gathering. So because of internet, I'll be putting off my video. Yes, so the topic for today is navigating the ethics maze from protocol design to approval. And okay, so the objectives of this session, first of all, we would want to deconstruct the core ethical principles and translating this into concrete protocol design strategies. We would want to also identify common approval pitfalls so that we are able to recognize the reasons why protocols submitted face delays, rejection from the REC, and also see how when you submit protocols, the processes it goes through. I believe that would help us to be able to navigate the ethics maze from the design stage to the approval stage, as the topic says. So for this presentation, we're going to have 3 parts. The first part is looking at the core ethical principles and protocol design. The second part would be on the common approval pitfalls. And the third part will be looking at UHA's ethics review life cycle, so that we understand how the process goes. So for part 1, I wanted to start with this for us to understand that within the university, we have policies, and we have a research policy which mandates or provides that the university is very much committed to ensuring ethical conduct of research. And it states clearly that research ethics is key, and you cannot conduct research without prior approval by an ethics committee. So it's important that we know this, and that we have guidelines that guide our work as researchers in the university. So when we're looking at ethics, basically we are looking at principle governing both right and wrong. So when we talk about ethics, we are looking at what is right and wrong, but we have ethics in different professions, we have ethics in different spheres. And so in this one, we are looking at what is right and wrong when it comes to conducting research. So the ethical principles, these are the core ethical principles, as most of us are aware. We have respect for persons' autonomy, beneficence, doing good, and justice. These are the key principles. All that we do are anchored on these 3 principles. So what I intend doing here will be to take us through each of them and see how we bring this to bear in developing our protocols for ethical review. So first of all, we're looking at autonomy. Autonomy basically says that we are individuals, and as individuals, we are unique, we are free, we have a freedom, we have our rights to participate or not to participate in a study. We can decide on what to do as individuals who are matured enough, and we are able to do this. We have the right to informed consent. We have the right for you to inform us and for us to consent before participating in any study. So autonomy actually requires that as study participants, they are able to choose directly whether they want to join a study or not, or whether they want to remain in the study. So they can even say, oh yes, I consent, I want to be part of this study. But then later they can decide that, okay, I want to leave. There shouldn't be anything holding them. So the principle of autonomy, respect, is basically to say that, look, I respect you as an individual, I respect your rights, and so I'm not forcing you into this, and that you are able to do this willingly and freely out of your own understanding of what the study is about. And in doing this, we would protect persons with impaired or diminished autonomy, diminished capacity to be able to take certain decisions. These mainly are children, pregnant women, prisoners, key. These days, we also add some persons with disability. So these are people with diminished autonomy, such that, for instance, a child can say yes or no, but they are living with somebody. Somebody is giving them food, somebody is clothing them, somebody is sheltering them. And so they are under the care of somebody. So for them, they don't have the full autonomy. So people like this, we give some protection so that when you're conducting a study with children, with pregnant women, with prisoners, of course, we know that pregnant women, because of their state at that point in time, it is their mother and child. At that time, most pregnant women don't even know the state of their unborn children. Okay, so protecting particularly the unborn child and also the woman is important. And then prisoners, historically, this whole thing about ethics historically is because of prisoners that have been used for several studies which were not warranted. So prisoners really will say do not have rights, okay? So people can force them to do things. And so conducting study with this population, we provide very serious considerations regarding protecting them. So autonomy, yes, this is autonomy, but these are people also who have some form of diminished autonomy. All right. So how do we translate this into our protocol design writing? First of all, because people have their autonomy, we want to ensure that we are converting every language, particularly when it comes to the consent form, because you are going to explain the research to the participants. So you are going to convert convert all medical academic jargons into simple English. I mean, into English that lay persons would understand. So you won't pick a consent form and you have a lot of jargons in there that the person cannot understand. Also, when you design the protocol, you must ensure that the person asking for the consent does not have any power or authority over the one whose consent is being sought. So, for instance, if you're a teacher and you're conducting a study with your students in class, the likelihood of a student saying, I will not participate is very low. And so you have that authority over the person, doctor-patient relationship and all that. So you factor these into your design such that you are respecting the autonomy of the person and not lording over them because you have some influence over them. And so these things are things that the ethics committee will look at critically. We must also understand that in designing your protocol, you must explicitly state how participants can withdraw from the study, and also their data, how they can even take their data from your study data without any penalty. So these are the things that you consider when you're looking at autonomy with respect to the ethical principles. As you develop protocols, this is what you look at critically. The next one is about beneficence. Beneficence basically says that do no harm. Okay, see how best as a researcher you are doing good. You go into the community, or you are conducting a research basically to be able to help solve a certain problem. So you are not going to harm anybody to be able to achieve what you want to achieve. No, your aim is to make sure that you are reducing the risk as much as possible and increasing the benefits. So maximize possible benefits while you are minimizing potential risk. And this risk could be physiological, psychological, legal, social, whatever. So as you design, ask yourself, one of the basic questions that you ask yourself is that, would you allow your son, your daughter, your mother, your father to participate in this study? Or even yourself, would you participate in this study if it's designed this way? Is the risk too high? Okay, so as you translate this into a protocol, you are looking at asking sensitive questions. When the proposal or the study is about asking sensitive questions, you are asking yourself, is this something that if I am asked, I will freely give information about, or is going to harm me or the participants? And like I mentioned earlier, you would have to see how you are able to minimize risk to the barest minimum. Okay. If there are risks, make sure that you clearly indicate this. You won't say there are no risks just to get the person on board. No, that is unethical. So look at the risks that are involved. What can you do to minimize the risk? Yes, we want to do the study. Yes, the study comes with a risk, but then you are writing out how you are going to mitigate this risk, how you are going to minimize the risk. When you are conducting a study and there are incidental findings, there are findings that you really did not anticipate. But yes, sometimes it becomes a risk to the participants. I participate in your study. You conduct you take some blood samples, you conduct your test. Then you have found that I am something. I mean, you find something about me medically. What do you do about it? Do you leave me like that and just give me the results? Have you helped me, or you have put me at a certain risk? How do you mitigate some of these things? So these are things that you would have to write out clearly in proposals as you think about ethics and designing your study. The next one is about justice. So there are three principles Now, when it comes to justice, it's more like making sure that you are being fair. You are ensuring that the benefits of that study goes to the people who have suffered for it, if I should put it that way. You won't conduct a study that will benefit people in University of Ghana and conduct it in UHAS because you are a faculty in UHAS and you can get students from UHAS, but you know really well that this study can only benefit people in the University of Ghana. It means that you're exploiting us, okay? So you avoid exploitation. You know certain groups of people who, as for these people, when I go, I can easily get my data, so I'm going to them. Then you are not being just, you are not being fair. So when you look at justice, it's trying to prevent one group of people bearing the burden and the other group enjoying the benefits of the research. Okay. In recent times, one of the things that the ethics committee keeps asking is, why is it that about 80-90% of students' research either in who or Adaklu? I don't know whether you have thought about that. Adaklu or who, 90% proximity, very likely. Are we exploiting them, or there are studies that really are necessary there and the benefit goes to them? Okay, so these are the things that we have to think about as we design our protocols. In selecting your study sites, okay, don't conduct the study just because the place is very close to you. Don't select the site because, it's an easy place for me to work in. But then, are they the people who need the the research? Okay, so selection of your study site is key, and that is linked directly to justice. Equitable participant selection, non-exploitation, very important. So as you do this, translating this into your protocol, you want to make sure that you justify why a research must be done on specific study participants. You want, for instance, recently we reviewed a protocol, someone wants to conduct a study in a prison. Eventually, when we checked, the person works there, and so thinks that it is easier to get the people there. However, the study was conducting is a study that can be done amongst those of us walking around freely. It is not anything peculiar to prisons. And so the REC did not approve it because you cannot go there because that is what you want to do, or that is where you can get the people freely. Prisoners do not need that at that point. It is the rest of us who are freely walking around who need that study. So move to the community and conduct your study there. So the other thing you are looking at is that you are using the people for your study. Are you compensating their time, their travel? Some people use particular clinical studies. People come there for to seek medical attention. We add our research to it. Instead of, let's say the person is done, but because of your study, he must come for a follow-up visit. We try to get them to come for the follow-up visit, not because they need it for their health, but maybe because of the study. And yet we are not giving them the transport that they need, at least even the transport that they need to come back for you to do this because of your study. So some of these things are things that we have to put into consideration when we are designing our protocols for research. Sometimes also the compensation that is given, particularly for funded research, is a little high, and sometimes the ethics committee looks at it and thinks that, oh, this one may result in inducement. People would go in there because of the benefits, in quotes, because of what they're going to get from the compensation. So we take a balance between the two. Okay. Then also, when it comes to justice, one of the key things is outlining your inclusion and exclusion criteria clearly. Okay, every exclusion criteria must have scientific reason. And I am spending a little bit more time on this because it's been one of the things that the ethics committee keeps having issues with when it comes to the review process. So the difference between inclusion and exclusion criteria basically is that who would I or do I want to be part of this study? I would include them. Okay, so inclusion is who can enter the study. Exclusion really is that, so we are saying that all students in UHAS would be included. I mean, I'm just using this as an example. Okay, now exclusion does not mean that if you are not a UHAS student, you are excluded. No, because by your inclusion criteria already, if you are not a UHAS student, you are not included. So it is not just the direct opposite of inclusion. The exclusion really is that even though you are a student of UHAS, there are certain characteristics that you possess that would affect the study. And so because you have those characteristics, we are not going to include you in the study, we would exclude you. So you realize that you first have your study population, then you come out with your inclusion criteria. Okay. Now, once you have your inclusion criteria, then those who do not fit based on some confounding factors and all those things, you take them off. And those are the people, or those are the things that we look at as exclusion criteria. So it's not a reverse of inclusion criteria. Oh, inclusion, participants who are aged 18 to 25. Okay, exclusion, those who are above 25 years. No, inclusion exclusion does not really, that is not the motive of having inclusion exclusion. It is that we want to see that, yes, you want to include all these people, but then among this group of people, there may be some critical characteristics that may confound, that may affect the work that you are doing. And so based on that, you are excluding those people, even though they meet the inclusion criteria. There are certain things that because of that, they cannot participate in the study. So you call them out and you say that these are the exclusion. So that's the exclusion criteria. Okay, so that is one thing I wanted to explain in this session. And sometimes people exclude because of they feel that, oh, these people, it will be difficult to get them and all those. And that is not a scientific reason for excluding people in your study. So yeah, so these are some examples. I'll skip this. I'll share the slides, and so you can look at some of the examples. But once again, once you have an inclusion or exclusion criteria, you must always give reasons why you are including or why you are excluding. It is not adequate just to state inclusion, you state the points, and then exclusion, you state the points. Yes, for undergraduates, we may allow, but other levels, you really need to give that explanation, a reason for taking someone in or someone out. All right. So with this is the three key principles and how we incorporate this into our study design as we work. So we have looked at respect for persons, autonomy. We have looked at beneficence, do no harm, and we have looked at justice. All these things have a place in our design, particularly in our methodology. Okay, so as the REC reviews, as any ethics committee reviews, they are looking at these things and picking them out and making sure that we are addressing, these are the critical things, the critical ethical principles that ethics committees look at. All right. So the second part, we'll look at common pitfalls, approval pitfalls. So what are some of the reasons why protocols face delays or rejections from the REC? So one is, of course, we usually will see that somebody is submitting a protocol 22nd of July, and yet the cover letter, in fact, there's one before me right now, the cover letter is on the 13th of March. Okay. Things like this unduly delay you, because some committee members will see that and say, because of the date you have there, there is the likelihood that people will think that we have delayed in the review process, and so they would want you to correct that. That alone can give you another 2 weeks or 1 month delay. Okay. The guidelines. Hello. All right. The guideline says that you should have a structured summary, and yet you submit without a structured summary, or you submit a summary that is not structured. You have a problem statement that is not adequately articulated. Like I mentioned, because of the principles of respect, beneficence, and justice, you must clearly articulate your problem and the significance of the study. That is critical. Sometimes some members of the committee come up and say that, look, there's no problem and there's no justification for you conducting the study. And so please go back and rewrite it. You have delayed yourself because these are things that you must know. We must be sure that, look, where you want to conduct the study, or even the study you want to conduct is relevant, is needed. Is there a problem that you want to solve? That must come in clearly. So sometimes this is not very clear and therefore causes delays. Not fully completing the new protocol submission form. Yes, some people complete some aspects and leave other aspects. Just because of that, you are delayed because comments will come and another 2 weeks, another 1 month delay. Yes, we have submission guidelines. You follow them. Some do not follow, and some reviewers, I mean, they are interesting. They see the thing you haven't followed it. They will not review. They'll say, "Let's send the comments to them. They should follow the format." Okay, so because you want, and it's tedious. Hello.
Yes, and then some students came around.
Hello. So because it's a lot of work, reviewers, you usually want to see the thing the way we have asked it to be submitted, or else it gives them a lot more work. So some reviewers will just come up and say that they haven't done it, let them do it. Okay, so those are some minor things that you do or researchers do that delay approval process unduly. You are doing a study, you are using human subjects, you don't include your consent forms. It would come back. Okay, you are doing a lab study, you have not done any risk assessment of the lab study that you are conducting. It is likely to come back. Okay, you have written an informed consent form, but it is not properly written. We'll go through that later. It will still come back. Okay, you have your Gantt chart, your timelines, and you are saying that in July, the REC is reviewing this in July. In your Gantt chart, you have said that you are collecting data in April. It would come back because the REC feels that, look, this is the time we are reviewing it, so you should do your timeline such that it aligns with the time that the approval will be given. So some of these things unduly delay your protocol being approved. Now, when it comes to the methodology section, one of the things that it's looked at is your tenses. Someone will say that, what does that also got to do with ethics? It means that if you are writing in the past tense, it actually means that you have already done the study. Okay. Oh, we did this and we did that and we did that. You have done the study. There's no need for ethics approval. We don't do retrospective approval. And so if you have written in the past tense, then there's no business for the protocol coming in there. It will be rejected. Okay. You have a study design that does not align with your study objectives. You have certain study objectives that are qualitative in nature, and yet your design is a quantitative thing. That kind of thing. There is a mismatch. You have not justified selection of your study period. Okay. For instance, usually for retrospective studies, you are doing it from January 2025 to December. Why? It's just because I feel that is the time or the period that I get my data. It must have some justification. Without that, it will come back. Okay. So, of course, the reverse of inclusion exclusion criteria is a very, very common comment that comes every now and then. Okay, because people usually feel that exclusion is the opposite of inclusion, and we need people to understand this. So it's one of the comments that would always come. Willingness to provide consent stated as inclusion criteria. Yes, so sometimes inclusion criteria, we say that the person will be included if they are willing to participate or to consent to the study. Now, note that consenting comes in after you have done your sampling and everything. Okay, so how then would that now become an inclusion criterion? Do you get it? You have done the sampling, you have done everything based on your criteria and everything. You have now approached the person and said that, oh, yes, because you fit my inclusion criteria, I have come to the person. Then now the person says, I won't do it. And so because I won't do it, then you're excluding the person. No, you are not excluding. The person has decided not or opted not to participate. You have not excluded the person, or you have not included the person because of consent. Okay, so that is also one thing that usually students will write that the REC would always come up with. So not providing separate inclusion and exclusion criteria for different study populations. Yeah, so you have different study populations in one study. For each of those category of participants, you must come up with your inclusion and exclusion criteria. Don't lump it together. So reviewers would always comment on some of these things as well and would unduly delay your approval of the protocol. You have selected a study site. You have not justified why. You just indicate that I want to conduct the study at UHAS. Okay. And per the principle of justice, there needs to be some justification why you want to conduct the study at UHAS. Okay. What shows that that study is needed at UHAS? Usually the study site description is about, and the whole teaching hospital was established in 2000, the year 2000, and it was the executive director, the CEO was this person, and he has 25 wards and is able to do this. Meanwhile, you have not really talked about why, what that site has in relation to your study. Why is that site necessary or important for your study? Then we begin to talk about it lies on latitude 25 degrees and all. Those things are important. It's part of the description, which you can add, but don't end there. Move on to talk about why that place now becomes necessary for this study. And it is very important that we conduct this study at this site. You can have all those descriptions, but don't end it there. Add on. Okay, so no description related to suitability of sites. I've mentioned that it appears study sites. Yeah, so it appears, like I mentioned, that most of our students in particular, selection of study sites is due to convenience. Of course, maybe because of financial reasons and all that. But then, can we now look at, if we still want to conduct the study in Ho, in Adaklu, in Ziope, wherever, can we now look at real problems in those communities such that there are things that when we conduct the study, it directly affects them, not just because it's convenient to us. Okay, so that is for now. The other one is sampling. Sampling basically boils down to respect and justice. If you are sampling and you don't have any description of your sampling technique, you have not described the procedure to be used, then it means that invariably you are not showing any respect to the participants. You feel that, oh, I can just walk to people and ask them to come and participate in the study. Respect has not been demonstrated in there. And so the REC will definitely come up with comments for you to have that discussion, explanation. Your sample size, without showing how you arrived at that. Why are you going to sample 20 people just because you feel that it's 20? So some of these things are there that do not come in the description, and so would come back as comments and will delay your approval. When it comes to ethical considerations, generally, people just talk about, oh, I would obtain ethical clearance at the UHAS, from the UHAS REC or from Ghana Health Service and all that. But that is not ethical consideration. Yes, you can add that, but what next? You need to provide a detailed description of your ethical considerations in designing the protocol. What did you consider when it comes to ethics? And here you are applying your respect, beneficence, and justice. Okay, so usually the REC, most of the REC members will not comment on this, but these days a few of them are commenting on this. It is not just about you obtain ethical, that one is not ethical consideration. Ethical consideration is that what are the ethical issues that you have considered in your design of your protocol? Okay, so that is another pitfall. Informed consent, assent form, parental consent forms. These usually we need a lot of sensitization education on. So you are working with children and you don't have a child assent form. you have a child assent form and you know that the child cannot consent, they are one of the people who are vulnerable, and so they need parental consent. So any study that involves children, always ensure you have child assent and then parental consent. Okay. Now, sometimes the forms are there, but are not properly written. Sometimes you see students, mainly students, you see that they have just bulleted the points in there without any write-up, okay, description of what exactly they want. You are not expecting a prospective participant to understand those bullets. Sometimes they write and you are not writing in the using second person pronouns, because you see, it is written as though you are in a conversation with the person. So you are not writing it, if I am going to participate in, or you are going to participate in a study and I want consent, I am writing it such that I am speaking to you in a way, okay, so you use the second person. Now, when you are doing a parental consent, then you are using a third person because you are referring to a third party, which is the child. So you are looking at the child's participating and not the parent's participation. These are common mistakes that people make and therefore delays approval. Okay. Other things, other ones is that, you have different categories of participants and you have, let's say there's one participant, you are going to do an in-depth interview, another participant, you are going to take samples of blood and all that. Now, these are two different things you are going to do on different categories of participants. You will not have one consent form because some of the things that the one you are going to draw blood from need to understand are not related or do not apply to the one that you are just going to have an interview. So you have different consent forms because the consent form basically is for you to inform the person exactly what they would be doing as part of the study, so that based on the information, they take a decision whether they are participating or not. So if there's information there that do not relate to what they are going to do, then you have not provided an informed consent. Of course, we talked about the use of jargons, technical language. So informed consent forms must contain a statement that shows that this is research. It's key. If you write informed consent and you don't show that you are conducting research, it can be rejected. Okay. Provide brief background with simple language. Sometimes people in providing the background will now come and restate their their study title. Yes, you can do that if your study title is not complex. It doesn't have jargons. You can do that, but it is not self-explanatory. Your aim here is to explain your study to the prospective participant. State the purpose. Why this study? Who is involved in this study? How many people? Where are they coming from? Why am I being contacted to participate in this study? There are several people here. Why am I the one you have come to? I want to know. Okay. What procedures will I be taken through? You must describe all these things. Okay. How long will I stay in this study? What is the period? Is it just 30 minutes or is 1 month? Every week I have to come here. Those are important. When it's a qualitative study, for instance, you should also ask permission to record. These things must be stated in your consent form. And usually these are the things that do not come in. So consent form, usually the REC spends a lot of time reviewing the consent form because that is very key and it borders on all the three principles. Okay, but particularly the principle of respect. So benefits and risks. Usually when we are describing benefits, they are describing the benefits of the study. At this point, when it comes to the consent form, we are not looking at the benefits of the study, but we are looking at the benefits to the prospective participants for participating in the study. Okay, so if there's no direct benefits to the participants, you need to state so. But then if you state that there's no direct benefit, then where is your justice? Are you being fair? If I'm not going to benefit from it directly, then why are you coming to me? So that's another side of it. Okay, so these are the things that we need to look at critically. So it's not to state the benefit of the study. Sometimes we state that there is no risk. Generally, it's said that there's no study without a risk. At least there's some minimal risk. You may want to look at it and indicate those risks. And then once you identify a risk, what mitigation measures do you have in place? Because you must make the participants comfortable and saying that, okay, even though these risks are there are these measures that have been put in place such that should this happen, I am covered, and then they can participate in the study. Confidentiality, usually we see that people do not differentiate between privacy and confidentiality. which are two different things. We talk about having data in a log cabinet and all this, yet most of the recent protocols that come, you are doing electronic data collection. So where does the log cabinet thing come in? So we should change the language a little bit to suit what we are doing, okay? Anonymizing data, yes, usually we'll talk about it. Compensation, what we usually see is that students state in there that because a student work, there is no compensation. If a student work and there's no compensation, then nobody has asked you to do the study. Okay, once you are engaging participants and you are engaging them for specific stuff and for a certain duration, whether it's student work, faculty work, funded, not funded, the participant has no business with whether it's a student work or not. If you don't have money, you don't go into research. And so if they must be compensated, you compensate them. If they must be compensated, it's not every study that they are compensated. So it depends on the study. Sometimes the rec will come up and say that, yes, they need to be compensated. Sometimes they don't say anything because they think that, oh, this is just a short time and people can spend their time to provide information. But the justification that it is student work and therefore no compensation shouldn't come in at all. If you don't have compensation, say so, but don't say it is because it is a student work. Okay, so basically that is one of the things. Withdrawal, some in the consent form, they talk about conditions for withdrawal. Okay, you can only withdraw when this. It doesn't happen that way. The person has autonomy, okay, and should be able to withdraw at any time. Okay, even for those with diminished autonomy, like children, that is why they are sent. Even if their parents says, go and do it, and he says, I won't do it, he cannot be forced. That's why you need the assent in addition. So people must have this in mind. And then some protocols, consent form will say that you can only get, your data can only be taken out after a certain time or by the time something. We write those things. No, if the person comes out and says, look, I don't want it again, and please take out all my data, you should be able to take it out. There is no condition where you say that maybe, I don't know what, because most of the time this comes up a lot. I've not seen any study yet that once it goes in, you cannot take that person's data out. If it is possible, yes, why not? The rec will look at it. But generally, those statements in the consent form will come back with comments and would unduly delay you. Contact information. The reason why you add the rec contact information is because some participants want to know their rights, okay, and they don't understand some of the things. So they come to you and then they call the rec. Okay, signatures, important, signature date of both the participants and the researcher. Now, consent forms are such that when you do it, you must have two copies. One copy goes to the participant and the other copy comes to the researcher who for keeps. So both parties must have one and each party must sign on. This is a legal document. If tomorrow something happens, you as a researcher have that as your backing, that I explained all these things to you and you agreed to do it. Okay. Recently, there's a study going on in HGH. They are trying some drugs. The adverse events was serious. Okay, now we had to go back now to the consent form to see what exactly was stated. Do you get it? So consent forms, very critical. And then whether all these things were made known to the participants and yet they sign up to it, then that is it. If not, then we also have a problem. So those are some of the things we have to look at. Let's not take consent forms lightly. They can be used against us anytime. Now, the third part, this is a very short part of the presentation. The third part is looking at our ethics review life cycle. So the life cycle depends on whether it is an undergraduate research or faculty research, faculty and graduate students research. And the process for review are not the same. The timelines are also not the same. So these are two different, there are two different ways we work with this. Now, so I've tried to show a process map flowchart for how we look at undergraduate research protocols. Now, The whole idea when we established the Research Ethics Committee was that we want a central university research ethics committee. For now, it is housed within the Institute of Health Research. Now, we anticipated that, look, several years to come, there'll be a lot of demands. So we started working on getting schools to establish their ethics committees. Now, the whole thing is that the schools will be responsible for reviewing and approving undergraduate ethics protocols, whilst the graduate and then the faculty research comes to the central body. Now, so what we have been doing over time is that schools are doing it. We are tracking and building capacity. As the school's capacity is built and we are confident that they are able to do the work, we grant them autonomy to do the review of their student protocol, so they don't need to submit to the UHAS rec. This process I have here shows what happens when it comes to the UHAS rec. So students will submit their protocol, the school rec will review it, the school rec will approve it. Now, if the school, for instance, School of Public Health, School of Medicine, those two schools currently are doing their own thing. It will end right there. The school will approve, and that is all. The other schools that we are trying to get their committees working well, once that is approved, they will submit to they'll submit the approved protocols to the UHAS rec. Now, the idea is not to go over the review again after it has been done at the school level. We do administrative review to check. We have a checklist to check how the protocols have come in. Then based on that, we either recommend for approval or recommend for further review. Those that are okay, we recommend for approval and straight approval is given. Those that are not okay, we recommend for further review. So it is now reviewed, comments go back, goes to the students, the student resubmits. If it is okay, then approval is given. Okay, so this is the process we go through when it comes to undergraduate research protocols. For our faculty and graduate students, protocols come directly to the UHAS rec. So you download the forms, the guidelines, and all those things. You complete the form, submit the protocol. First of all, for administrative check. Usually, that would be in a form of electronic. You are sending by email. We check, confirm that everything is okay. In terms of, we are not reviewing. We are only looking at whether you have added this, you have not added that, you have followed the guidelines, and then we give you advice as to what to do. Then you resubmit. When you resubmit, the protocol is now accepted, and then we assign the protocol to reviewers. So typically, every protocol goes to 3 reviewers, okay? Then on the day of a meeting, we all sit. So the 3 reviewers are those who are assigned to it, but those who are not assigned also get copies and they read, because when we meet, the protocol is discussed. So we review, have a meeting, discuss the protocol, and then if it's approved at that point, there are a few protocols that gets approved right there. We just give you a clearance certificate immediately. Most of the protocols would have some comments. We will now give you the comments. You would come back. So even that, there are 2 ways. One is that you would have to resubmit and it will go back for a meeting. Okay. The other is that you would come back and we have an administrative approval. Then your protocol is approved. So basically, this is the process it goes through from start to finish when it comes to the faculty and graduate students research. So the timelines, if you ask me, for the undergraduate students, we don't have clear timelines. It is reviewed as they come in. Okay, so if you bring 5 protocols, it is reviewed. If you bring 10 protocols, it's reviewed. What we try to do is that The batch that comes, we try to work on everything together and send, because we don't want the situation where, oh, I got this one, I didn't get that one. Once we work on that batch, everything goes. So if you bring 100 protocols, we try to make sure we work on the 100 before we send it out. If we bring 2 protocols, we try to make sure we finish the 2 before we send out, so that there are no discrepancies regarding we have received this, we have not received that. Okay, so we don't have specific submission dates, unlike the faculty ones. Okay, so for the undergraduates, we know the timelines and all that. So as it's ready, it is submitted, it is reviewed, and we go. There are several factors. So for instance, if a school decides to wait and collate all protocols for students, and you bring 100 protocols today, it will take us a longer time to finish with the 100 protocols. Until the 100 is done, we are reluctant to release any of them. But if you bring 2, you bring 10, you bring 20, we work on those ones and it goes. One, it does not delay the students who brought theirs early whilst waiting for the other one. So it also depends on the quality of review done at the school level. Recently, there were some protocols that were submitted, not even a single one went through the initial thing. And in fact, when the REC reviewed it, they were asking whether this was actually reviewed at the school level. There's a thinking that some schools are not doing the review before pushing it here. If that happens, it will delay, because it means that reviewers will not take their time to review. There'll be a lot of comments that people in the office would have to put together, and it takes time. If everything is done well before it comes to us, I'm not sure it would take more than 3 weeks for protocols to be approved and for it to go. Okay, but like I said, this is the average duration when things are okay, and based on these factors. And so these are the things that we would have to look at critically. When it comes to the faculty and graduate students protocols, there are 2 tracks. We have the fast track and then we have the regular review. For the fast track, you can submit at any time, just like the undergraduate one. When you submit, we review and give you feedback within 2 weeks of your submission. We give you 1 week to do a resubmission. Once you resubmit, within 3 days, the REC reviews and gives you a certificate. Sometimes getting the chair to sign delays a little, but it won't go beyond a week. So that is a fast track. The regular review, you are going through the process. So we have advertised submission deadlines, which is usually the last Friday of every month. So if you're able to submit by that time, it means that your protocol will be tabled for the next meeting, which will be the 3rd Wednesday of the month. If you submit on the Monday after the last Friday, which is likely to be the 1st Monday, know that your protocol will be reviewed not at that month's meeting, but to go to the next one. So you have already 1 month because you missed the deadline. So that also, you would have to factor that into it when you're submitting. So make sure that you're always submitting based on the advertised deadline. Now, once it's tabled for the meeting, which is the 3rd week or the 3rd Wednesday of the month, then you realize that between the last Friday and the 3rd, we have about 2 weeks for our reviewers to review, because a week we use for our administrative staff to assign the protocols and all those things. We go for the meeting on the 3rd Wednesday. After the meeting, we give ourselves, per the standard operating procedures, up to 2 weeks after the meeting, to send comments to you or to the researchers. If it goes beyond 2 weeks, then there are issues, okay? Then there is a delay. But within 2 weeks, we should be able to send you the comments. When we send the comments, we give you 2 weeks to respond, to revise your protocol. And once you submit that, if it's for administrative approval, within a week, you should get your approval. So you realize that looking at all these processes, it shouldn't take less than 2 months for you to get your protocol approved if you are going through the regular review process. However, if you are going through the fast track process, it should take you just about 3 weeks, plus or minus, depending on how fast you work on the comments, to be able to get your clearance done. So I think that one of the major things is that for undergraduate protocols, I think schools Some schools wait for all students to submit before they bring it over. Okay, it's unduly delays the students. As a few bring it, you can bring it, and then we'll also work on it fast, and it comes to you. Sometimes if you bring so much, 100 protocols, 120 protocols, it's a lot of pressure on us. The number of staff here are not that many, and so it will take a longer time. Like I said, we are hesitant in doing it in bits because of some discrepancies that can come up regarding responses. Sometimes there are delays in the comments we send. We give 2 weeks, but some wait until a month, some after 2 months, some even don't come back, particularly undergraduate students. So those ones are there. We have noticed that between the school, students have submitted to the school, or even department has submitted to the dean's office. Between that place and IHR, sometimes can take a month. Okay, there are a number of them you would see here. It can take a month. Already, you have spent 1 month for the protocol line in your school. Once it comes here, before we start the process, so already it will delay the process. So these are some of the things. So in conclusion, I would say that we must all understand that when it comes to research ethics, ethics in research starts from the inception of the project, like we have discussed. At the inception, you are incorporating these principles into your design. Okay, it does not come after your project design. It should be part, it should be mainstream, it should be part of your thinking as you do it. Okay, so in that, the end does not justify the means. Oh, okay, I got it anyway, and so it is okay. No. It has to be part of it from the beginning. You cannot start your study without ethical clearance. That is a no. So if you are in a hurry, start early. I've shown you the processes that we go through. And so if you're in a hurry, you would have to start early so that you can get the approval before you start. Time and again, some students have started their research without ethical clearance, which is not good. And some of them will tell you that their supervisors have asked them to start because there are delays. Okay. I feel sad, not because they have not completed, but I feel that we are not teaching them the right thing. They think that it is one of the things to check, and that is it. Not realizing the need, the importance of it. If they go and something happens, then the supervisor and the students will be in trouble because they have not gone through the process before. And ethics, of course. So it's important that we go through the process quickly, get the clearance before we go to the field. Then we are training the students to do the things right. And we don't do retrospective approval. Oh, you have done the study already, but ethics is needed, so you are writing it for us. No, it's not done. Okay, it is, like I said, it starts from the beginning, inception. So you don't do it after the study is done. Okay, so that is it. So I think that for me, my take home for all of us here is that in writing our protocols for ethics approval, we should consider these 3 principles: autonomy, beneficence, and justice. Okay. And these must be incorporated into the design from inception. We must make sure that we follow the red guidelines to avoid the common pitfalls that we have discussed and to ensure that we have a quick turnaround time for ethical approval. We must all know that research is a privilege, it's not a right. It's a privilege. We are just privileged to be in this position to be doing research. And so in conducting research, we must do everything possible to do it ethically, respecting our participants, doing no harm, and being fair. Okay. And know that it is a process, not an event. Getting ethical clearance is just one step of it. But throughout it's a process, it's not an event. Okay. All right. So thank you very much for your time and your attention. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anumu. It's been an hour or so of serious learning. Anytime you hear him speak, there's always something to be learned or to be reminded about.
It's been a pleasure listening to you for the past 1 hour. I will give opportunity for questions. If any of us I can see John Insaw's hand up. John, please, with all respect, Mr. Anumu, are you ready to take questions?
Sure, why not?
Okay, all right. John Insaw, I can see your hand up. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair Professor Alidu. Mr. Anomo, that's a very wonderful presentation. I think this thing, even though it should have come earlier, it has really helped a lot. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, it's really helping a lot, especially we those who normally reviewed at the school level. I can see that I have learned a lot of things today, but there are a few questions I want to really ask concerning your presentation that you did, especially in the area of the policy for the protocols to be given and have ethical clearance before one can conduct a study in UHAS. Talking about those of us who are coming from the biochemical research, so sometimes we do not even deal with human beings. For example, maybe you want to do something that has something to do purely with simulating the lab before you now translate it to the real world. Do we really still need to go through the process to get the ethical clearance before we can conduct that study? That's the first one. And then the second question has to do with the inclusion and exclusion criteria that you spoke about. You realize that I heard you saying that sometimes you have already recruited the people, so you find it difficult to understand why sometimes we will write, students will write that those who are not willing to participate in the study, they cannot be considered, they will be excluding criteria. I think that before normally we do the recruitment, we have to even get the ethical clearance before we can do the recruitment of the participants. The only thing that maybe if you want to do a pre-test and do stuff, you can do, but I may be wrong, but what I know is that before we can even start recruiting people, we have to get the ethical clearance before you do. If I don't know, if it is wrong you can school me in this direction. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Can I
You can respond, Mr. Anumu.
All right, okay. So I'll start with the second one. So what I said was that when it comes to inclusion and exclusion criteria, sometimes you would see in the inclusion criteria that people who are ready to consent will be included. And then exclusion criteria will tell that people who refuse to participate in the study will be excluded. The point is that if the person is refusing to participate in a study, you have not excluded the person.
Yeah.
Okay, it is the person who has decided not to participate in the study.
Okay.
And like I explained, the exclusion is a subset of an inclusion. So
Okay.
you only exclude people who qualify as part of the inclusion criteria. Now, if you put there in the inclusion criteria that people who consent, yes, you will take ethical clearance before you go and do the recruitment. But in the clearance protocol, you are telling me how you are going to include people. And you are saying that I would include the person if the person consents. The explanation I was given is that in the recruitment procedure, you have your inclusion criteria minus the consent to say that if the person is at UHAS, you will include. If the person is aged 18 to 25, I will include. If the person is at Sahs, I will include. Okay. Now you have done all those things. If the person is at Sahs, but because of this study, the person, let's say, has some or is taking some medication or something, I'll exclude the person. Now, the person accepting or wanting to consent to that study does not become your criteria for including a person.
Okay.
Your criteria is that you have all these people. If the person decides to or not to participate, it's not part of your it's not a criteria for you. If you come to me based on your inclusion criteria, your sampling and all those things, you come to me and I say, oh, I won't do it. What do? You go to the next person based on your sampling strategy. If I say I'll do it, then you are with me. Okay, so basically the inclusion thing is more of characteristics that would help you achieve your study results rather than the decision of the third party, the prospective participant.
So let me get it clear here. So let me get it clear here. So in other words, when you have the inclusion criteria, it will help you recruit your participant.
Yes.
Having recruited your participant, you will now look at it. Somebody is willing to do it, for example, but you didn't know the person was on a particular medication. Then you say, oh, you are willing to do, but because of this or medication, you cannot take part. Is that what it's supposed to be?
No.
I'm just using the medication as an example.
No, yes.
The person didn't know you were recruiting. But you didn't know.
He said he would do. Yes. If you use the medication, then
everything.
Once the person is on the medication, you will exclude the person.
So that becomes the exclusion criteria.
It becomes the exclusion. Yes.
Oh, good. I want to get it very clearly from you.
It becomes the exclusion.
Okay.
But the use of the word recruiting, you see, the recruiting is the process.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
I'm
very clear now. Because sometimes it can help us, most of us, our own work, and it's when we are reviewing the work at the school level so that it makes the work easy for you. Because I used to also have an issue. If the person says, I'm not there, well, how can that be exclusion criteria? I say, I will not take part. But you see a lot of students will write, yes, it's an exclusion. Those who are not willing to take part. So you consider that. I used to also have issues with, like you rightly put it. Thank you.
All right. Your first question was on, sorry.
The fact that those of us who do pure lab-based, sometimes we are just going to simulate. We are not going to touch human beings.
That one, the protocol is that you apply for a waiver. Okay, but you have to submit the protocol.
You see, I have been arguing with this thing for a long time. I'm happy to hear this. I said, I'm going to do something in the lab. I'm not going to touch with anybody. And they said, still, you must get ethical clearance.
Yes, but you need that letter to say that it has been waived
that we can look for a waiver.
ABC.
It's good. No, we will write those things, but sometimes they can start, but because of that, we said they should wait until they get the ethical clearance. But as you have rightly explained now, we can write and give you the protocol to go through, and then probably you give us a waiver to start, so that we don't need to wait to go through all the processes.
Yeah.
Mr.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Excuse me to come in here. From what I'm hearing, if it's a laboratory-based work, and you are working on animals, even rats and dogs or cats, you have to get ethical clearance because they are also
you need ethical clearance. You need
for that one you need. But I'm talking about the situation that you don't need to deal with. Let's say I'm extracting something in the lab. Then when I extract something, I'm going to simulate what happened in the lab without using animals, without using human beings. That's the situation I'm talking about.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much.
It seems if you, Dr. Atinana, if you don't have any questions again,
no, I'm okay.
It seems nobody else has raised their hand.
I think Dune's hand is up, and then Helena,
whose hand?
Hand is also up.
Well, it looks like I cannot see. Dune, right?
So let me help you.
So you coordinate it. I can't see their hands. Okay, now I can see
Dr. Helena
Sandra's hand
the
up.
first person to raise the hand.
Okay, so John, go ahead and moderate that.
Okay, Dr. Helena, then you can go ahead.
You guys.
Yes, thank you very much. Prof. Alice, thank you for chairing this event for us. Mr. Numun, we are grateful for your time with us this afternoon. So I have a few questions. The first is, I understand, or I am aware that researchers need to undertake some training to conduct
Oh, sorry, I can't hear you.
Working with human beings, but I did not hear you mention that. I know about the city program.
Can you repeat?
I know that.
Dr. Helena, can you repeat, because we didn't hear much about the latter part before you realize, so kindly repeat what you were saying. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear now.
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. So
it's not good though.
My question.
Online, I stay home.
I am aware that I am aware that there are some trainings or courses that researchers need to undertake in conducting research that involves human beings. So, but I didn't hear you mention that. Maybe I might have missed. So I know about the CT program. There is also the good clinical practice for clinical trials. There is also the biosafety courses. So I would like to know if that is being enforced here within UHAS, so that researchers need to undertake that course and then show their certificates to prove that they are qualified to undertake research among human beings. Then when you talked about compensation, you weren't also specific. So I was wondering if there is a recommended compensation per the nature of engagements we have with the participants. Then the issue with delayed submissions at both departments and school levels, is there a way we can reduce these events? Is there a way we can digitalize submissions way from supervisors levels through the HOD, then the school level? Now that we are hoping to have our own rec, is there a way we can manage this so that we can reduce the delays? And then for child absence, I know that in Ghana we say below 18. I mean, the person is not as independent. We have university students who are being asked to participate in studies. They may not love some level hundreds, maybe 17 years. Are we sticking to 18 and above, or once they are less than 18, we still need the assent? And then my next question would be, what the definition or coverage of risk is. So we are asking that we are telling a participant that there is minimal risk or there is no risk. For example, their time. If they're spending like over an hour in an interview, will we consider that as a risk? What is really the definition of risk? And then what calls for I think I've talked about this. Okay, no, it's different. So what calls for compensation? What kind of study? We understand that you don't have, I mean, you cannot justify that you are not providing compensation because you're a student, but what study calls for compensation and what doesn't? Because most of the time our students conduct research, and usually, well, the people do not have to be transported, so they take the data. The only thing they are taking is their time. So what is the scope of providing compensation for participants? And then again, I want to take us back to the waiver. If someone is conducting a lab analysis that does not involve animal or human subjects, and we are asking them to still apply for waiver. We are asking them to apply for waiver. So does that mean that every study will have to come to the IRB to get a waiver? Because and then also I see people who don't line, and how do we extend this to ensure that they do the right thing? Please, that will be all. Thank you.
Mhm. All right, thank you. Sorry, the last one I didn't hear well, so when I get there, you can maybe come again. So the GCP training, yes, when you go to some institutions, it is mandatory for researchers to have certification that shows they have gone through some ethics training, and then they add that certificate to the applications to show that they are able to conduct studies using human beings. However, at UHAS, we have not enforced that. In fact, I think just about 2 months ago, that discussion came up at the REC meeting, but we didn't firm that up to say that it should be a requirement. Basically, the thing is that the arguments others have made is that, you see, we are working in a university, a research institution or a teaching institution where 90% of the protocols that come here come through our faculty, who majority have PhDs and have gone through these processes. And so you don't want to add another layer of requirements for for them. So that has been the argument. And others feel that it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody knows about ethics. And so, and these certificates, they are you renew them depending on where you got yours, some 5 years, some 3 years, some 2 years. So there's a reason why those renewals are there, because you need to refresh your memory, you need to refresh your knowledge and everything. So these arguments are there. We haven't, as a committee, taken any entrenched position on that yet. So it's not being enforced currently. Compensation, what calls for compensation? Now, when it comes to compensation, across board, at least with my experience with all the ethics committees, both nationally and internationally, there is no there's no direct determination of compensation, and it's usually a debate when it comes to that at the REC meetings, because some will feel that, oh, this is too much. Some will feel that this is not adequate. Some will feel that they should give a compensation. Others will feel that it shouldn't, based on the protocol. So it depends on the nature of the protocol. Generally, what I have noticed is that if there is a study that the participants is spending substantial amount of time, at least an hour and above, participating in the study, at least the REC always asks for some form of refreshment for them. Nothing at all, water, okay, because they are talking, they are doing this, they need to refresh themselves. You won't get someone talking for 1 hour and not even quench their thirst. So they ask for those things. In recent times, for studies where blood is being drawn, depending on the quantity of blood, it means that you are going to take some amount of blood from the person. The person needs to replenish that. And so there should be some form of compensation to the person. So it all depends on the study. For clinical trials, yes, that one is high risk. And so if I'm going in for that and I'm putting my life on the line, the compensation must be high. So depending on the study, the REC determines what should be. So that links directly to the minimal risk thing. So when it comes to ethics, when you say minimum risk is anything that is the kind of risk you go through as an individual in your day-to-day life. So you wake up in the morning, you go to work, so everything we do, there's a risk to it, you understand? But we are doing it as part of our daily normal life. That is minimum risk. Anything above that risk is risky. I mean, it's high risk. And we are saying that for protocols to go through this for exemptions and all that, it must be below minimum risk. Okay, anything above minimum risk means that it is risky, and therefore the REC has to look into it. So you just use a typical human being's daily routine. It's minimum risk because they are going through it every day and they are coming back home safe. If there's any addition to that risk, then it is risky. Okay. So also you talk about delayed submissions, digitalizing. Yes, we have started working on, I'll call it a software, but kind of a database where we'll be doing online or electronic submissions. We currently will start with the faculty and postgraduate students things before once we are able to learn the lessons and update the system, then we can go to the bigger thing. Over the years, we have been trying to purchase software for this. Some institutions have it, but it's very expensive that US is unable to subscribe, because you pay, you buy, and then you have annual subscriptions. So, and some institutions have done that. For instance, I know Ghana Health Service recently, not recent, I think about a year or two ago, got that, and it's influenced the rates they are taking now because they have to get money to be able to subscribe annually. So these things are there, just that the cost is high. So we are managing it the way it is now. But in-house IHR, this year we have an IT guy who is designing one for us. We have gone through and we are hoping to it will work. We would pilot it and see how it goes. So apart from that, we would still have to be doing what we are doing. Unless you have any suggestions for us, we would be happy to try it out. Child assent. Yes, we use the legal age in Ghana, which is 18. So anything below 18 is a child. Anybody below 18 is a child, and so needs parental consent. When it comes to the ethics space, there is what we call the emancipated minors. Okay, so for instance, you have a Kayayo who is here by herself and is feeding herself and taking all the decisions. But it doesn't mean that, or even you even mentioned student, the student is here and is on her own, basically. But it doesn't mean that the person is of age and has the ability to take decisions. So even if the parents are not here, there is a legally acceptable representative that must consent to the person's participation in the study. Okay, so that is for that. I think I've answered the questions. Is the last one you talk about waiver, but I didn't hear the question very well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for responding to the other ones. So, my concern about the waiver is having almost every protocol come to you for a waiver, because if they are extracting, let's say something, let's say some nutrients from some food, and they have to come for waiver, what will you know? What protocol should not come to you for a waiver? It's like everything has to come to the IRB. My understanding is that it's protocols that have to do with human beings and animals. So where do we draw the line?
Yeah, so every protocol has to come. You will not determine whether this should have a waiver or not. And some people have done that, and at the end of the day, run here because they thought that you don't need any clearance or waiver, and they went to publish, and the journals are asking that, look, where's your ethical clearance? You understand? So to be on the safer side, don't assume that you don't need anything. At the least, you need to submit risk assessment. Okay, it's lab work. What is your risk assessment? You get it. So it's best to submit. The only thing, it won't take a long time to review, because once it comes and it's looked at, a waiver is given. So even when you look at Sahs in particular, when you look at some of the studies that are done by the students that come here, they get clearance faster than others. Because those ones
clearance take longer.
Pardon?
Our clearance take very long.
I said some of the protocols.
I have a question on that. So when you're done,
Okay.
I'll ask.
Yeah, so I was saying that some of the protocols go faster because they are lab stuff, and then once it comes, it's approved. Okay, if it takes long, I mean, we have our records here. I keep saying that people will say it's delayed and all that, but you come here, you see, recently, just a week ago, no, not a week, Monday, today is Tuesday. Yeah, I think Friday, there was someone from Sonam complaining they submitted long ago. The protocol came, we showed it to the person, we received it here a day before the person came. Meanwhile, they have submitted it over a month. Okay, so it's sometimes these are the delays. And if you would, I mean, we have records here. Of course, there are sometimes, like I've mentioned, there are sometimes that the delays come from us because our human capacity is not that much. And if there's pressure, we would have to do it based on first come, first serve. So sometimes, yes, genuinely, there are delays. But where there's nothing really on that side, we push it, yeah.
Yeah, please, to add up to the waiver, I see a lot of people in the social sciences, they conduct research, they take data from human beings, and they don't get ethical clearance. Is there any regulatory body for this?
All right. So,
and how is all of this? Is it that we are into publications? Yeah.
yeah, sorry, I didn't get the question fully, but I only heard if there's regulation for this. So in
She said
Ghana,
that for people in the humanities and the arts,
yes,
she's seen that they've published a lot of data without ethical clearance. And so she's asking if there's any regulation to deal with that, or they as people who do the humanities and the arts in their research, don't they need ethical clearance? I think that's the import of her question.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, they need, but then there is no national guidelines regarding research as we speak now. There's nobody regulating any of these. Every institution is governing their research the way they think is best. Okay, so we don't have a national regulatory body when it comes to research ethics. That is one of the challenges. So yeah, so some schools, some institutions don't, but I think for now, even when you go to University of Ghana, there's ethics for humanities. Yeah, it's there. There's ethics for the basic sciences. It's there. They have different ethics committees for all those ones. It's there. At least I know for Legon. So if others are not doing it right, it doesn't make it right. But I know that they have to. Yeah.
There's a question on the chat box, so I wanted to ask that
Sure.
Sandra, that I'm
That
asking
question
on
is not
behalf
very
of my
clear.
colleague. That I'm asking on behalf of my colleagues at the PNO. I think I don't know PN. I think that should be the physiotherapy people also, whose research are to produce patent, but they do not do they. What I'm sure the understanding is that he's asking about those who are doing to produce patent. Do they also have to do get a waiver? What do you call it? A waiver for the the ethics. I'm sure that's what he's trying to put out. Sandra, if you are there, can you ask your question very well? Because we are not getting well. I think you are there, Sandra.
If you are producing patents, I don't know
Where
the
is
kind
she?
of patent, yes, but
I'm sure
that is
she's
even
not
the
that,
reason why you should ensure that you have gone through the processes well, so that at the end of the day, your work will not be in vain.
Unfortunately, she's not online. She's not online. Let me see if she has joined. She's not online. She would have been the best person to ask this question. Okay. Now, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
I think yes. Ajua Banson, are you there? You can ask your question.
Yes. Hello, can you hear me, please?
Yes,
yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Yes.
Dr. Ansel, I'm still on.
Some clarity.
Oh.
Sorry.
Sorry. Then after then you come on. Sorry. I didn't see your hand.
Yes, the PNO is not physiotherapy, it's prosthetics and orthotics, and they make these artificial limbs, and it's very technical. Like they basically design things, and sometimes it's their innovation, like from scratch. So they have been often encouraged to patent their products. Otherwise, it's like it gets done and then no recognition and all that. So I think that's where the question is coming from. That the process of patency, does it require ethics approval? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for the clarity. So the process of patenting in itself does not require ethics approval. Okay, but then in that process, I mean, in assessing the patent, the innovation, how you went about it can raise issues, ethical issues. I hope you get it. Which, if you don't have either a waiver or a clearance, can affect your patent. But if nothing, you can pass through. I always say that it's better to move on the side of caution than to assume and then get, after all the struggle, the hard work and all that, not make it because of one simple thing. Yeah, so that is it. Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Dune, you can now ask your question before Dr. Feke.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for a good presentation, sir. Again, one of the challenges we have had as faculty members and as supervisors has been with our students getting their ethical clearance for our research work. And so for us in MedLab, in the third year, we have our students. We are giving students that you are supervising, and we start with the proposal writing So before they get to the final year, proposals and submissions and all that. But we don't know where the gap is. Because at departmental level, we are giving our students are given deadlines for submission. Even faculty, when you are doing reviewing these proposals, there are strict timelines and we stick with them. And so when it leaves our domain, our thinking is that between the research coordinator and REC, what is happening to the extent that even as of now, a lot of our students do not have their ethical clearances. What is the problem? That is why I support the earlier presenters' question, if this could be made a virtual something so that the tracking can be there, because it's worrying.
In fact, hearing this myself is worrying to me because I know that when it comes, so what we can do, we can do an audit. We can track the system so that we are able to clear the bottlenecks. It may be from anywhere. Yes, so we can track it. You can come, or whoever is responsible can come, and we look at it. And you see, like at least we keep records as to when protocols come here. We stamp them on the date, and then the day it goes out, it is dated. So we have all that in there. We can track it and see where the bottleneck is. But moving forward, I think that the ideal situation, what we should be working towards, is for Sahs to be able to get its committee working and active so that it doesn't have to come here. So that if there's delay, you know that it's from there. Okay, but to get that done, the committee must work. We must see that there's an improvement in the protocols that are coming in, and then we would support you to do the reviews there.
Thank you. One last issue. Again, so from my end, as a supervisor, if my student proposals are sent and let's say in 2 months' time, they get a response and their ethical clearance, let's say in quote, are on hold, because the query is that the PI should provide permission letter to be submitted to the site requesting for their data. And then the other one is explain inclusion and exclusion criteria. At your level, could you be a bit flexible where you could give approval pending the submission of these? Because now what I feel is that, yes, my students have received this. They would now have to work on this, go through the research office again. It will go through the school. Before it gets to your end and come back, we are talking about another month or 2 months, meaning that our students cannot have their research work done. So if there could be a caveat that approval is given subject to this, and then if there is an online way of submitting this, as soon as they get this, that very day, this can be done and submitted for them to get their clearance for us to do our work.
All right. So when it comes to the what you mentioned about giving approval
subject to
no. As we speak, there are a number of students that even the comments that they have received, they have not submitted. Okay. And doing that when you have not provided all that is needed and giving the certificate, we'll have a lot of students they are in a hurry to finish. That's the ultimate for them. You understand? So the best is that if that is what should be done, it should be done quickly and brought. I don't think you necessarily have to now go through all that process, particularly when it's a resubmission, because you've done the thing already. There are comments. Yours is to work with your supervisor and submit it, and it moves fast. Because if you have to now go through there and to stay in the office there for a number of days before it comes here and all that, it delays. Okay, so given that approval, certificate, no, it won't come. We'll now be chasing. We don't want to be chasing you for things. Okay,
so
and the students will be gone.
Give me clarity.
Yes.
Please give me clarity. So with this one, the student has done it. Can we walk into your office and submit to you for expedited action?
No, the students cannot work. We don't deal directly with undergraduate students. Otherwise, this place will be. The supervisor can do that on behalf of the students.
The supervisor can do that.
Can do that if, yes, once
All
the
right.
school's protocols agreed. I mean, the other thing I believe is that the schools may be tracking this as well. But if there's nothing like that, the supervisor can do it on behalf of the students, but not students coming here directly. No.
Okay, so the challenge at the department and the school level is that when it goes to my, let's say, the research coordinator, he will not send one to the school office.
Yes.
Then the school office will bring one to PEM
Yes.
site. The next day they bring one. So they would pile them up.
Yes.
So
that's exactly
just
the
this
thing I identified. Yes.
Exactly.
That
So just
we
this
wait
common,
and
just,
pile.
yeah, so the problem is just this simple comment. This may stay in the school office or the department level for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
They'll go to the school level for like 2 weeks. They come to your office and they may be
Another
2 weeks or even more.
Exactly.
And so that is the challenge. That is the challenge. So I am happy that there is a caveat that the supervisor can bring them himself or herself. I am interested in personally bringing those of my.
I think there are a few supervisors who have done that in pushing
have
it.
received attention.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
Once it's done, yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Colleagues,
hello.
I think. Hello, John.
Hello.
Okay, you're on. You can go on. You can go on. You can go on, Prof.
Do we want to still continue?
I think if they want to continue,
Yeah,
I think somebody asked a question.
Okay.
Somebody asked a question. I wanted to also voice it out.
Okay.
I think we was talking about the delays.
Yeah.
And sometimes the quality of a review coming from the schools they have concerns with it.
Yeah.
In fact, what I'm seeing is there's more like people, because there's no remuneration for it, people really don't give that much effort to it. I don't know whether you have observed that or not, because if people were actually remunerated, I'm sure they would do a quality work. But you just bring it, then you have so many things to do. You just rush through it and do something to represent something. And sometimes even I know the research coordinator will have to push hard till this thing goes through. So if that aspect, we can look at it, I don't know, your end. I'm sure we will be able to get better quality reviews compared to what you're experiencing. And another thing I can also add is that if we can also have time to also do a lot of training like this, it's also help to some extent.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. So I think the training, yes, you are right.
Please, can I ask my question?
Oh, you can.
Yeah. So my question is about case studies. These days, our postgraduate students, we have a course that they're supposed to do case studies, and some of these case studies are likely to be publishable material. So I want to know from the speaker if they have some guidelines or they have a format for presenting case study for ethical clearance. And my second question is, if they are submitting such proposal for case studies clearance, are they going to pay because they have been charged for the ethical clearance of their protocol that they're going to submit? Do they have to pay extra money for that? That is, I want to find from the speaker. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. So I'll start with Dr. Tindane's on. So training, yes, training is important. I think we should do this a little more regular. In person would even help. And then when the school committee is working, we can come in and help build capacity so that we would be okay with it and then it will move on. The issue about the remuneration, I think that something can be done about it, but through the school. The school can work directly and raise that issue with the management of the institution. Because they pay something, it's not enough anyway, but they pay something for this so that if you are doing your work and there should be something small, it can be done. But I think that based on my recent experience, I think that it's a lot of work, and the kind of remuneration that will come will not be anything that would give you any extra motivation. Will not give you any extra motivation. You should have that self-motivation. The remuneration is good, but the kind of remuneration that is given, I won't even call it that. It's so this thing that the motivation will not really be there. But something can be done, I believe, if it's done through the school. The issue about case studies, I would need some clarity on what we mean by case study. If it's research, if you are engaging any human participant, animal, environment, anything, you need to seek ethical clearance. And so in terms of format or whatever, you use our existing formats. I'm not aware of special case studies being done. So basically, that is it. If that is part of their requirements for the academic work, they don't have to pay for it. But then every student, as part of their final year fees, has one slot of payment for that. I mean, which goes to the school. It doesn't come to us. In fact, I don't even know how that money has been used. So it goes to the institution. And so it boils down to Dr. Tinane's thing as well, that because of that, some case can be made for some remuneration. And then this one, because it's only paid once, we cannot have a case study protocol coming through, and then after that, your main protocol also coming through. That means that you would have to pay that more than once. So that can also be looked at the graduate school level and during the school fees determination stuff. Yeah, thank you.
Prof. Ali, take over.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Tindana. I believe that there are no more hands, and we are coming to the end of the program. With consent from all participants online, if Helena permits me to go ahead and end the session, if there's any reason why I shouldn't end the session, so Dr. Tindana and Helena can voice out to me. I think we are almost coming to the end of the presentation. It has been a very educative, informative, and brilliant one. And usually when you listen to the facilitator, you always should expect that he will deliver. A few things I picked in summarizing his presentation is about the issue of inclusion criteria. In fact, when he said it, I laughed. He said exclusion criteria is not the opposite of inclusion criteria. So you cannot say that your inclusion criteria is student from UAS, and then you say those not in UAS are an exclusion criteria. So basically, he educated all of us that inclusion criteria, exclusion criteria is part of the inclusion criteria. They are a subset of the inclusion criteria. So they are members of the inclusion criteria who have some confounding factors for which reason you are excluding them. And that's how he explained. And then he also said that those who refuse consent are not part of your exclusion criteria. You didn't exclude them. So your sampling strategy or sampling methodology, if a client refuses to give consent, you move to the net based on how you have scheduled your sampling methodology. He also said that there's a date or period of year of study has to be justified scientifically. You just cannot say that I'm doing the work from this period to this period without any reasonable justification or thoughts gone through that process. That was a very educative thing to hear. Good. And he said there are different consents for different categories of participants: parents, children, weak people, and all that. Very different categories of consents are done for different participants categories. He said that School of Medicine and SPH are doing their own ethical clearance, submitting to the REC and getting ethical clearance issued. And he said they are working on the rest of the school. I particularly am waiting for the day Sahs will have something like that. We are growing, we'll still get there. Good. Now, he also mentioned something about ethical clearance not retrospective. You don't finish your work before you now come and say, based on, because reviewers or publishers are querying your research, you now come to them and say, I've done it already, and I want ethical clearance. Beautifully, he said, research is a privilege. It's not a right, okay? So we should note that when we are doing our research. Good. He made us to understand that there are basically two types of applications. He said the regular and the fast track. And he made us to understand that each of them have different timelines, and he educated us on that. Good. Now, he also talked about compensation. He said compensation is justified if there is adequate risk to the participants. That he said the REC will take a decision on whether compensation is adequate or gerrymandering from compensation into inducement. Committee will take advantage of that. In fact, he said so much that is what I can summarize. I can only thank him so much for this. In fact, there should be more of this. Our research grants committee chair should do more of this, because academia is always a learning process, and there's so much we do not know, even as faculty and researchers. And there's so much we do not know as reflected in this presentation. I'm sure all of us have realized how much we are learning, or we learned from the presentation. Thank you very much. And I bring my commentary as chairman to an end. I now leave Jonathan, Dana, and Helena if they have anything to tell the research presenter or the facilitator. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof, for steering the thing to a successful conclusion. So as a chairman of the research and then grants committee, Dr. Helena Nti will take over and then close the session. So Dr. Helena, take over.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anso. Dear colleagues, we are so grateful for your participation in this maiden edition of the Sahs Discovery Dialogues. We have taken notes of all that we have discussed here. We are grateful to our chair. In fact, we notified him quite late, but he has been available, and he's, like Dr. Anso said, he's steered the wheels to a successful end. Mr. Numu, we can't thank you enough. We continue to look forward to your support in bringing to fruition the setting up of the Sahs REC. And then my fellow police, we look forward to working with you. We will send out a form. We hope that these sessions will promote collaborations within the school, within the university, and even beyond, not even just in, between universities, but even beyond the country. So we'll be coming to you with a form for you to fill for us if you are interested in sharing current research findings that you find innovative and you wish that we know about, we learn about. If you're looking for partnerships, this is the platform. I believe we can converge and share what we are working on and how we can partner with each other. For our next sessions, we'll be looking at scoping and systematic reviews. So we look forward to having you. The next one, so this is going to be a monthly event. For the next one, the third event would be on grantsmanship, which is going to be a hybrid. So we are going to have our facilitators. They are not in Ghana here, but they are available to help us navigate our grantsmanship capacity. So we hope to have, if any faculty will be interested, we are going to send out a form for registration so that we can find space. It's going to be a workshop, so we can find space where we can work together in putting together some of these proposals. So we'd like to thank you. Please look forward to hearing from us often, and we also count on your support as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
Chair, we didn't pray, so are we closing like that? Oh, Lord, we thank you for bringing us to a successful conclusion.
Helena was going to close the session
with a prayer.
Okay,
Okay,
Dr. Atindana, close the session.
Okay, let's pray. Lord, we thank you for bringing us together to deliberate on this important issue that will help uplift the grant issues and research and ethical issues concerning SARS. We pray that whatever we have learned here, you help us to continue to put it into practice and help us to get more ideas and help people to join next sessions that will help us to uplift the image of SARS and UHAS as a whole. We thank you once again for bringing us together. We pray this to Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Dr. Ansa, I didn't know that you are an elder in church.
Reverend,
Hey, I'm also full.
Reverend Pastor.
Hey, also from Kasa.
From you are giving me tight.
I see.
You're an African man and you deserve more titles.
Elena, let me say we've done a great job. That's good. That's good. We hope that we'll continue this way. But just the number, I think the number is not bad. But next time maybe we'll do the publicity more so that we can get a bigger number. I think we got about 30 people.
I think what we can do, Dr. Atinana,
yeah.
I think what we can do is for Helena to sit down and summarize the little bit of the bulletin, the highlights of the meeting, and put it on the SARS page.
Yeah, I agree with you.
In a catchy style, put it there in a catchy style. And you see that people will be like, Charlie, I missed something. So the next time you see participation,